Hey YouTube, so a big focus of this channel has been, just helping out dad advice. I'm very close to that whole situation, I suppose, just because of different experiences in my life. Your mileage may vary. The reasons that you come to this channel might be different than the reasons that I created it, but I'm a family man. You ask a lot of my friends, it's first and foremost. That's really important. You got to keep all this in mind. There's a lot of distractions in this world, I get it. And there are different types of distractions in this world. Ones of your own making, ones outside of your control, and some that are engineered to be in your way. I didn't want to be too out on the fringes with this channel. I wanted to kind of laser focus, if I could anyway, on my personal experiences and my advice and what I think may or may not be the right choice. I'm not a clinician. I'm not, classically educated. I'm just a guy with experience. And, you kind of got to go there, done that, in order to figure it out. And some people, make the same mistake over and over again and never learn. But I'd like to think that I have learned. Okay. And one of the big pushes, besides the obvious of helping people live better lives and have better relationships with their children and the people around them, is once you've established that, okay, now we start looking on the bigger picture. It sounds confusing to say it that way, but you have your day-to-day interactions. You have your rapport with people, around you in your life, whatever. But then there's the larger picture. For instance, being close with your children doesn't necessarily mean that you give them everything they want and need, being their best friend. Sometimes, you have to say no, and you got to think of the future. And so this episode is kind of a little bit more about that. So right now, I don't want to go too political, but I believe we're $33 trillion in debt. Okay, that's one. Two, I'm a huge fan of history. I love history. I believe it was Mark Twain that said, history rarely repeats itself, but it often rhymes. Now, I may not have that exactly correct, but the message is there. Another one I really like is Winston Churchill, a great man. The further you look into the past, the further you can see into the future. And again, I may not have that exactly right, but that is the message. And I look at what's going on in the world right now. And oh, by the way, I was in the Army, infantry, deployed to Iraq. I look at current events and you compare them to, say, the early 1900s leading into 1914. And if you're a student of history, you know that that's when the Great War, the war to end all wars, aka World War I, because World War II happened 20 years later, literally within 2 weeks to the day. And they had to rename the Great War to World War I because it happened again. Well, I believe we're heading into a phase where we might be talking about it being World War III. And something scary, I believe it was Albert Einstein said that the Third World War would be fought with nukes and the Fourth World War would be fought with sticks and stones. That's kind of scary. Albert Einstein was a very smart man. No one can clearly predict the future. But again, just like Mark Twain said, it doesn't necessarily repeat, but it often rhymes. Situations, circumstances, people, places, things change. So one of my big pushes, is behind getting men to raise their boys right and to have better relationships with their children is we're so divided right now. And I don't even mean politics, and I don't even mean your identity. I mean physically. People move to neighborhoods and they literally do not talk to their neighbors for potentially 3 to 5 years. That is not uncommon. And then, go 5 or 6 houses down and they have no idea who those people are and what they do and how many kids they have. I'll give you a scenario. Let's say you have your 15-year-old kid at home, okay? And I don't know, the hot water tank, your HVAC system, a malfunctioning coffee pot, whatever, catches on fire, and you're at work, okay? And that kid never met the neighbors. So he just runs out to the front of the house while it's on fire to the street. We have to develop a sense of community. I've mentioned other times, family and all that. And I know a lot of these things seem cliche when they say it takes a village to raise a child. It kind of certainly does, at least to the point of, if you were to go back in like ancient times, and you did have a village and, you saw a bear running at a child, you're going to look out for that child, whether it's yours or not. You're going to shoot your arrow, throw your spear, or grab the kid up and run. I don't know. In today's aspect of it, it would be you saw a kid in the street and a car was, racing towards them and the person was on their cell phone. You'd run out and grab the kid, or you'd tell the kid to run, or whatever the case may be. And this is what I'm talking about, is we don't have any sense of community beyond our immediate family. And, there are countries out there right now, for instance, Poland, which are telling their people, hey, get ready for a potential disaster. Everybody pays for car insurance, and you can go 20 years paying car insurance and never have a damn accident. And then one day you do. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, well, that's why I paid for 20 years for this day. Well, prepping and all that isn't just, filling your basement full of things you need. It's about establishing a community. And even if you're not in the pursuit of that, just simply for the well-being of the community, go have a barbecue, invite some of your neighbors over. I'm not saying that there's, it's all going to be positive and on the up and up, but generally speaking, the majority of it will be. It will be. And, you just got to get out there and do these things. Sorry, I'm at work. A little bit of a downtime. God, I've been working like mad. Literally 14-hour days every day. Anyway, you might establish a relationship that is highly beneficial to you. You may find out that your next door neighbor is really good at small engines, and when your lawnmower breaks down, he might be able to give you a hand. You might be changing the brakes on your car, and they might have a tool or something or an idea that might drastically reduce the time and effort. Maybe even save you some money. You never know. It's a good thing to have. I'm going to tell you a little story. So my wife, her mother passed away when she was 8 years old. Her mother had just had a baby, came home, and the kids were downstairs, and my wife could hear her new baby brother just wailing his head off. And she went upstairs and she couldn't wake her mother. It's a terrible, terrible story. Very tragic. And she couldn't wake her mother. And she picked up her baby brother. She went on the phone and she was a little kid. She didn't know any better. She called the neighbors and said, my mom won't wake up. And they said, just come over here. They ended up calling 911. But my wife and her siblings went to the neighbor's house and they stayed there for quite some time. This is back in the day before, cell phones and all that. So it took a little bit more time to, contact, her dad and the appropriate people. We take for granted today that on a whim, you can just use your cell phone to contact anybody. But if you guys remember, I don't know, I guess like a month ago, AT&T had that issue. And if you were one of those people that, lost the ability to connect with people, it's probably pretty frightening, right? Kind of scary. Well, imagine that times 10. That could happen. And it doesn't even necessarily have to be war. It could be a natural disaster like Hurricane Katrina. These things happen. And establishing a community, a healthy community, is always going to be in the positive. It's just a good idea. You're less likely to have issues as well. A plant that blocks your window, or if you have better relations with the people around you. Hey Bob, I'm going to be having a party. Is it okay if I park my car? Or if some of my guests might park in front of your house just for a little bit, versus you never talking to them. You have that party and someone parks in front of their house and they flip out. And then the first time you meet this person, it's on an adversarial, footing. So I really think people need to really start looking at the bigger picture and focus on their community, and after fixing your own immediate personal life, expand outwards and increase the network of people that you can rely on. It's extremely important. And this whole song and dance is very tedious. I'm trying not to get too political, although I horribly want to. I'm very opinionated on a lot of things, if you can't tell. But anyway, I'm pulling for you people out there, and I hope things go good, and I'll tune in next time. All right, bye.